Hey guys, welcome back to Too Far Gone Media, where we expose government overreach and tyranny. Now today we're going to take a look at the mess that is called the Canadian government and what exactly Trudeau and the rest of the government's plan or thoughts on what's happening with Trump's tariff threats. And tell you the truth, me honestly, I like Trump. I like Trump a lot more than any politician out there right now. So, I don't know, let's check it out.
I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call.
A few moments later.
Justin Trudeau made his way down to meet with President-elect Donald Trump. He also was at a dinner table, you can see there, with Howard Lutnick, the incoming Secretary of Commerce, and his wife. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, incoming lead of the Interior Department, and his wife, and Mike Waltz, Trump's choice to be National Security Advisor, along with his wife. You can also see there the Senator-elect from Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick. Trudeau brought some of his cabinet as well to have this dinner, where they wanted to discuss the proposed tariffs Donald Trump has talked about with Canada and Mexico.
Yeah. 25% on Canadian and Mexican goods, 10% on all Chinese goods, 41% of total trade to the U.S. is from Mexico, China, and Canada. We're looking at a total of $3.1 trillion of goods.
That are imported total.
That are imported totally. You know, this is a big deal because we don't export as much to them as they send
China
to us.
Specifically.
Yeah. And so this is a big deal. I mean, you know, Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump ideologically opposed, and yet you see Justin Trudeau. I'm going to read you this quote. You're going to see how conciliatory he is. He's not messing around. He understands he can't play games here. This will deeply affect Canada. And so this is a quote from him earlier on Friday. He says, ultimately, it's through lots of real constructive conversations with President Trump that I'm going to have that will keep us moving forward on the right track for all Canadians. It's important to understand that Donald Trump, when he makes statements like that, he plans on carrying them out. There is no question about it.
It's not even clear what he's asking these countries to do. I mean, he says it's about fentanyl, but like no fentanyl comes over the border from Canada, you know? And even the fentanyl that does come over the border from Mexico is mostly brought over by American citizens. So it's not really clear what these countries could do to appease Trump. I really hope he is just saber rattling, because I agree, at least I think we agree, that a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods and all Mexican goods would be devastating, as would the likely retaliation, which would probably be much more surgically targeted to American businesses that would suffer, that are politically important.
Yeah, a couple of things.
Most of us who do business there realize it's time to really set the record straight here, because they cheat, they steal, they don't protect IP, we can't use their courts. And Xi is getting away with it because he thinks no one will stand up to it. My strategy here, and what I would advocate for, is to raise the walls so high that it forces him to the table here in Washington for a reciprocal deal, which we desperately need. And it's not 25%, it's 400%. You basically threaten to bankrupt his economy. And the only reason Xi gets to be the supreme leader is people are employed. If you threaten the core of his economy by shutting down access to the world's largest economy,
people rise up.
They rise up, they throw him out. And when he senses that coming, he'll fly to Washington to cut a deal. It's going to take very tough negotiations, but I'm happy to see this is going on. Mexico and Canada, different deal. We have a new trade agreement. The challenge for Mexico has a brand new leader, so you see she's feisty, she's making her moves. That makes sense. Canada's a different situation. Trudeau's on his way out. He's at the end of a long mandate. In the parliamentary system, when you can't win a majority mandate, they throw you out. That's happening to him now. The new prime minister, most likely, is Pierre Poilievre.
We love him.
Well, he's going to be negotiating this deal. So I would advise Trump's team to bring him down to Mar-a-Lago and meet him now, because he's already told the Canadian people what he's going to do. get rid of carbon taxes, lift the ban on pipelines, be pro-business. That's in sync with Trump's mandate. So I think there's going to be a great relationship in Canada, the U.S. over the next decade.
President Trump had been saying that he would do this. He was elected 3 weeks ago. You'd think the Prime Minister would have been furiously planning and preparing, meeting with the premiers and talking about a counter plan during that time. And now we learn that since the threat happened, he's come up with exactly one response: a Zoom call. He's going to hold a Zoom call tomorrow. Of course, the media is absolutely captivated by this development. There's going to be a Zoom call between 11 or 12 politicians, and somehow this is going to solve the problem. We need a real plan, real action that will defend our economy and our security, and most of all, to put Canada first.
I spoke with Donald Trump yesterday evening, talked about how important it was for us to work together to solve some of the challenges we're facing as a continent, as countries, but also work to grow our economy, protect our workers on both sides of the border. This is the responsible, methodical approach we're taking as we move forward, while our opponent falls back on slogans and fear.
He spoke with the incoming president, and moments later, Mr. Trump put out a tweet slapping a 25% tariff on Canada. So that worked about as well as the Prime Minister's efforts on Buy America and softwood lumber, which continue to be penalized, even though the previous Conservative government got both of those things lifted. Now move over to drugs. The Prime Minister's disastrous legalization and liberalization of drugs has the Americans worried, in addition to costing 47,000 deaths in Canada. Where's the plan to stop the drugs and keep our border open to trade?
Once again, the leader of the opposition is just making stuff up. I clearly spoke with the President of the United States an hour and a half after he put out his suggestion on tariffs. The reality is we're going to continue to work constructively with the incoming administration to protect Canadian jobs, to protect Canadian growth, to take the responsible approach that isn't steeped in partisanship, that pulls together the Team Canada approach that stands up for Canadians instead of throwing our arms up and saying all is broken like the leader of the opposition.
Well, that's even worse. The statement went out promising tariffs before they even got a chance to speak. It's kind of like him backing down on Buy America and backing down on softwood lumber, Mr. Speaker.
Incredibly busy here in the legislature right now as you figure out how to handle these tariffs.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here, and thanks for your interest, because 25% tariffs across the board with no exemptions, that's going to hurt every Canadian province. And so I think it's why you've seen that the premiers have taken such a vocal position on it so soon.
Well, what did you think when you heard this 25%? I mean, especially for oil and gas, I'd imagine that could be devastating to the Alberta economy.
Well, it's much higher than I expected him to lead with. I thought we were talking about a 10% tariff, which was going to be bad enough. I had hoped that we'd be able to make the case as well that energy should be exempted because, of course, the Americans benefit from having 4 million barrels a day, most of that coming from Alberta, able to feed their needs. It brings down the cost of gasoline and diesel, which the Americans have said that they want to do. But I think we've got to take the new administration at its word, that there are some pressure points that they want us to resolve before we can even get to those discussions. They clearly do not like to see either Canada or Mexico use as a backdoor for China to be able to have goods come into the American market tariff-free and hollow out their manufacturing sector. They clearly are irritated that we've not met our 2% NATO commitment, and most recently they're irritated about the porous border for drugs, for people. And if we're going to have constructive conversations about trade, we've got to address those issues.
When you said initially responding to this that there was valid concerns, that was a different tone than, say, Doug Ford, who said it's like being stabbed in the back by a family member. Mm-hmm. I take it, valid concerns doesn't necessarily mean you think that the 25% tariff is justified, though.
No, well, look, I mean, we have been raising the concern about the unsustainable levels of newcomers coming to Canada for some time. We had started off because we'd had declining population saying, oh, great, let's have more people come to Alberta. But we have had 450,000 people come to Alberta in the last 3 years. And a lot of that is because the federal government has really taken off all of the restrictions on newcomers coming into Canada. It's stressing all of our services, and now we're seeing that some people are using Canada as a staging area to sneak into the United States. The Americans have identified that. That's a problem. It's a problem for Canadians, and it's a problem for Americans.
Thank you very much for coming here today, everybody. After 9 years of Justin Trudeau, everything is broken. Work doesn't pay. Housing costs have doubled, rising faster than in any other G7 country, to the point where 80% of Canadians now, for the first time ever, believe home ownership is just for the very rich. Vancouver and Toronto are now among the most expensive housing markets in the world. We have 1,400 homeless encampments in Ontario alone, 35 in Halifax. Food prices have risen 37% faster in the United States than they have in Canada, a gap that has appeared and widened with the application of the carbon tax on the farmers who grow our food and the truckers who ship our food. A tax that Justin Trudeau and the NDP Liberals now want to quadruple to 61 cents a litre, which would not only starve our people and kill our jobs, but would grind our economy to a halt. We know that President Trump would be calling all of our businesses, welcoming them to leave Canada and go south of the border where there is no carbon tax and where other taxes are dropping. It would be a gigantic sucking sound of Canadian jobs, businesses, and money heading south. That would add to the already $500 billion of net outflow of investment from Canada to the U.S. that has happened since Justin Trudeau took office 9 years ago. After 9 years of Trudeau, we've gone from having equal median income. Canadian and American workers made the same amount of money 10 years ago, to income per person now $22,000 higher in the United States than it is here in Canada, after 9 years of high taxes, more bureaucracy, and doubling of our national debt. And then there is the broken immigration, broken budget, and broken border. Justin Trudeau is a weak leader who has lost control of spending, lost control of immigration, and lost control of our border. And don't take my word for it. Look at the facts. His own government admits there are as many as 500,000 people in Canada illegally. We know that seizures of fentanyl doses by U.S. Border Patrol at U.S.-Canada border have more than tripled between last year and this year. In 12 months to September 2024, 11,600 pounds of drugs have been seized by U.S. Border Patrol agents at the Canada-U.S. border. In 2024, U.S. border guards caught 10 times more people sneaking southward from Canada than in 2022. This is a problem that we expect will only get worse because we have 700,000 international students here now that Trudeau and his former immigration minister, Sean Fraser, hinted that they would be able to stay permanently. And now suddenly that message has reversed, and Trudeau and the NDP Liberal government say that their plan is to hope, with the honor system, that they will leave voluntarily. CSIS, and then there's the drugs. I'm quoting now from a document obtained by Access to Information by Blacklock's reporter. This is a briefing note the Prime Minister received almost a year ago. CSIS identifies more than 350 organized crime groups actively involved in the domestic illegal fentanyl market. And what has Trudeau done since he got this information back in January, almost a year ago? Absolutely nothing, other than try to legalize and liberalize these same drugs. He has weakened our borders, and he doesn't even inspect 99% of shipping containers that come into our country. Since Trudeau became Prime Minister, there's been a 632% increase in U.S. border control encounters with people illegally attempting to enter the United States from Canada. In the first 10 months of 2024 alone, U.S. Border Patrol has intercepted more than 21,000 people illegally crossing our border. And on top of that, doesn't include the dangers that are coming into Canada from the United States because of Trudeau's broken border. According to Toronto police, 82% of gun crime is done with American guns that Trudeau allows over our borders because of the weak inspection system. And the drugs that come across the border, the existence of Roxham Road and other illegal border crossings that Justin Trudeau opened right after he put out a tweet to the entire world saying, "Welcome to Canada, come on in, we'll invite anybody across our borders." That chaos has persisted. It is clear that after 9 years, Trudeau is not worth the cost, the crime, the corruption, and the chaos. He has lost control of our border, lost control of immigration, lost control of our finances. And that is why today I am calling on the government to fix Trudeau's broken border. I'm demanding that the Trudeau government quickly present a Canada First plan to Parliament that includes increased patrols, working with provincial law enforcement, deploying new technology, cracking down on illegal drug production and trafficking, tightening visas, securing our ports, and expanding the mandate of CBSA officers to fix the broken border. These new technologies would include scanners, helicopters, towers, drones. We also propose temporarily deputizing provincial law enforcement whose premiers wish to fill in the holes the Trudeau government has caused. This, of course, is I'm embarrassed that we even have to suggest this, but it would be a temporary measure to fix what Trudeau, or to patch up the holes that Trudeau has opened. We need a real crackdown on illegal drug production and trafficking by reversing, for example, the C5 changes that Trudeau brought in, which reduced penalties for production and trafficking of hard drugs. We need boots on the ground, scanners all around, and a stronger border. We need to expand the mandate of CBSA officers to enforce the law beyond border posts. The reality is that Trudeau has lost control of the deficit of immigration and of our border. In less than 2 months, President Trump will come into office. He has threatened the possibility of imposing tariffs unless there is action to address Trudeau's broken border. Since Trudeau became Prime Minister, there have been massive increases in illegal border activity. It is his job to immediately introduce action to solve it. Now, it's not just for Donald Trump. Frankly, we have to acknowledge that he is the new President of the United States of America, and we have to protect our economic interests, but we have to protect our own interests. It is unacceptable for Canadians to have 47,000 overdose deaths. It is unacceptable for Canadians to have 350 crime groups actively producing and shipping fentanyl. It is unacceptable for Canadians to have $100 billion of money laundering. It is unacceptable for Canadians to see a 200% increase in overdose deaths. Even if President Trump were not calling for this action, we should be doing it for our own country and for our own interests. And these increased border measures should be paid for using the dollar-for-dollar principle, which will guide my government. And that is why I'm proposing to fund a bolstered border. The Prime Minister should cut high-priced CBSA consultants and cancel the $6 billion of insulting inflationary spending, the 2-month tax trick, and the inflationary checks. That money will only give us more inflation while jacking up debt. A $250 check will not mean anything to someone who loses their job because of a tariff dispute. A 10-cent savings on a bag of pretzels will not mean anything to a mother who's lost her child to an overdose of drugs. And as for getting it passed, we will plan to continue insisting that the Trudeau government stop blocking Parliament and release all the data to the police on the green slush fund scandal. We will make accommodations to quickly pass a border plan if it goes towards fixing Trudeau's broken border, that we can get it done. There are no excuses. Justin Trudeau has had 9 years and the results are a disaster. But the good news is life was not like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. We're going to bring home a common sense plan, axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. That requires a strong, robust border, like the one we had before Trudeau, with boots on the ground, with security at our ports and other land entries. It means a stronger armed forces, stronger police, and stronger law enforcement. It means protecting our people against the world's dangers. All of this is for the singular purpose that I am running for Prime Minister, which is to restore Canada's promise. That is, a country where hard work earns a powerful paycheck and pension that buys affordable food and homes in safe neighborhoods. A country where anyone from anywhere can do anything. In Canada, let's bring it home.
Well, there you have it, and there you go, people. Polly Peppercorn there's onto something, but I don't know. I prefer Trump myself, but it is what it is. It's pretty dangerous out there, people. You be careful. Stay sexy, Canada. Ow, ow. Chicka, chicka.